and I don't know if you want to stay for the whole thing, it might take too long, so if you want me to encapsulate it a little bit?
We're questioning rates. We're here to discuss the rate, the rate of increase for the healthcare insurance this year, and we seem to feel that the administration may have not manipulated, but have a different opinion as to what the rate is.
I think manipulation is an accurate representation.
So we'd like to bring our expert up and explain to our union members how the 5.7% increase came about, and if anyone else is questioning the 5.7, we'd like to get that on record, so that if it were to come up in the future,
Right.
that we could explain why. So Diane, please, you have the floor.
Okay. So I had explained previously that I got the carrier renewals. The Blue Cross projection was going up 5.4%. The administration fee was going up 1.5%, and Maxwell was going to go up 4.6%. Now the current trend for Network Blue is 6.2, and the Blue Care Elect trend is 7.9. So your 5.4% is below trend, so you're increasing below trend. And the RX trend is running 8 to 10%, and you're coming in at 4.6%. So that is also below trend. So what I do is I take the claims projections, the admin, your stop loss, your ACA fees, your CanRx. I take all of your self-funded expenses, and I come up with a funding. Currently, your monthly funding is at $3.6 million. The carrier projected funding is $3.9 million. It's an 8% increase. That is the starting point. What I'm trying to say there is, this is what your revenue is today. This is where I see the carrier projections at. That's 8%. Now, I have to take into account that you get stop-loss reimbursements, you're getting Maxwell rebates. So what we do is we take that and we subtract that from the 8%. Now I'm saying if you take $1 million of reimbursements and rebates and you put them at risk this year, 5.7 would be the renewal. I think that's a good starting point. That is what I recommended.
Okay. As you said, the 8% is considering zero risk. The rebates are always standards and factored in, correct? Okay. This has only come into question now because the city's looking for money. And the MOU talks about 7%, so we want to use the 8. The MOU also talks about our rebates. That is standard, it's part of it. Because if we're gonna start saying, well, we can't do it because they're projections, the entire rate is a projection fundamentally, because the actuarial projection for your health care is in fact a projection. No one knows what's going to happen. But historically, we have always, when we come up with a rate, that is actually the finite rate that we're going to use. And I believe that we've run under budget. I can't remember the last time we ever ran over budget. And as a matter of fact, the financial team of this city actually went before the council last year and said that they never even fully fund this particular fund because we always run under budget. And I know there are, this is problematic for me. And I know there are discussions ongoing about GIC. GIC is a cost shift, it's not a savings. Because that what you do is you're going to balance the budget on the backs of the employees. Same thing happened the last time we had a deficit. We had an $8 million deficit with Flanagan, and we again. That's when we began to talk about the GIC, but we didn't take the GIC because I went in front of council and we got what we got. This committee has worked diligently to maintain it. We are paying less now than we've paid years ago. And you're nodding your head,
Yeah.
That's right. This is not the problem. If we're going to look at how we got this deficit, let's look at how we really got it. The healthcare plan is running. And the first year we changed the plan modeling, and this isn't my numbers. I got documentation for everything I'm saying here. These are DOR figures submitted by the city of Fall River. The year we did it, there was an $8 million deficit with Flanagan. Ironically enough, when we switched over, they made $8.3 million. there went the deficit. Look, we've worked hard. Employees in this room, including I, when I was inactive, gave up benefits. We've got a good plan. It's been working great. I'm not going to stand for mischaracterizations of numbers to suit narratives. The reality is this is what we've done forever. 5.7 is the number. 5.7 is doable. There should be no consideration of anything else, and I'm not going to consider it. And if I have to go to the council, if we have to get an independent forensic audit, we'll do it. And I will go back to 1990. Here's the headline. City workers, choice, raises a health care plan. They said we had no money then. We had Ernst & Young audit them. Obviously, the audit was wrong. I got the sworn depositions. They had plenty of money. I mean, we can go on, but the reality is the renewal package kept saying 5.7%. There have been numerous times where money's been lost. That's not our problem. Our problem was maintaining it. We worked diligently to get PBRX to give us these rebates, to adjust stop losses, to do things to maintain the integrity of this program, give our people the best health care we could, even though they shifted a massive amount of co-pays to them when we went over to this plan modeling. And I'm not going to stand silently by or agree to anything that if you're going to tell us that you're going to, just because we are no more than numbers on a sheet, you're going to try to go to the GIC so you can have a premium-based plan and shift the cost to us. I will not vote for this unless it's stipulated that 5.7 is an accurate representation of the way we've always done business up until this point.
Diane? The 5.7.
Yeah, I recommended the 5.7, and I stick with it.
Is there anyone in this room that disagrees with the fact that it's 5.7 this year?
So let's stop the characterizations that are saying it's 8. If we're going to be, let's get full. That's why we wanted you here, Mr. Mayor. We want full disclosure. Let's air this out, and we're not going to. I'm not manipulating figures to fit my narrative. I've got this. I've got the facts. I've got everything I got here. I got in writing. I got the letters about where the money is. I got everything here. So there's nothing except what's up front. If we want to make an agreement today, we have to agree that this is the way we've always done things, and we've run under budget. That the record speaks for itself. I am not going to allow us to be used as a slush fund. It's not going to happen. We work too hard, and I know I don't have to tell you that because you work for the city. You took the hit in co-pays when we switched over to plan modeling. I'm not going to take an unnecessary hit. This plan is not in trouble. It never has been in trouble. If it was in trouble, we would sit here to try to negotiate. But I'm not going to sit idly by while the bean counters try to steal money from us to balance their budget rather than looking for the real cause of the issue.
I know, but Chip, relax. Hey, does someone else want to say something? We got one guy talking. Anybody else going to say something? I mean, if not, that's okay. I mean, if you have an opinion on this, you know, I know most of you, so I don't.
The only opinion we have, sir, is that we want to agree on what the rate is
For this year. Okay.
Because that has a lot to do with the agreement that we've made in the past
Right.
regarding even thinking about going into the GIC.
Right. And
If it's
I can assure you-
5.4,
no, I can assure you
5.7.
that this year, nothing's gonna change. That will be whatever the rate is that Diane sets. That's how we're gonna do it. So she told you the rate, that doesn't bother me a lick.
So are we going to clarify what was said in front of the council? And by the way, I'm the only one speaking because before that, they asked me to be the closer. So I ended up being the
Closer,
opener.
you've been the opener, the
But
closer, the
yeah,
middle,
well,
and-
I'll tell you what. You point to somebody in this room who's been doing this longer than me.
I didn't say that.
1981. 1981 to today.
Right, I'm just saying, I like to hear other people's opinions too. That's all I was saying. I
Does
wasn't-
anybody disagree? We went over this
We
before.
all basically have the same opinion. We've
Right.
all worked on this, we've all been here, we've all crunched the numbers, we've all done the CanRx, we've done the max
Yeah,
surplus.
I've
We've
done
done
it too.
everything we've had, we give a little,
Right.
but we all feel that we keep giving too much.
Well, the problem I have is when people work for a city, like you guys do, and I did it, so I'm not, and I say to this gentleman, we're gonna give you 1, we're gonna give you a half, we're gonna give you a 0, we're gonna do this, and all I do is jack up the rates on the insurance, I'm screwing the guy. That's what happens. Every time, you know, we're in there, we're all looking for nickels, everybody wants a raise, everybody wants to be treated fairly, as you should. And all of a sudden I say, well, okay, we settled with this union, 1, 1, 1/2, 0, 3, 4, 10, whatever the number is. And then I say, okay, here's your raise, and out of his hand, he hands it to us for health insurance. So he didn't get a raise. What raise did he get? He got a raise to pay for health insurance. And I don't believe in that, and I did it. Chip is 100% correct. I did it year after year after year. We get a raise, George being there slugging it out for us, or Becky for the teachers, and what happens? Oh, here we giving you 1, we're gonna give you, and what happens? I don't get it, my check, okay, finally we settled, I come home, I'm getting less. Less. I mean, I don't know, I don't like that, I never liked that system. I mean, it's not like I'm saying to you guys, Jesus, Bill Gates bought the city, everybody's getting 7, 7, and 7, like we did a long time ago. One time the teachers got some crazy number like that. Remember that? Years, you before your time? Well, way back in the day, we got a big bump one year. And we were all doing handsprings. Because we got real money.
But remember,
now we're upstairs fighting over 1.25, 0.5, and all I'm gonna say is, that's fine. But don't, I really would feel bad having you guys mischaracterize it as saying, oh, I got a raise, because you really didn't, you got a bill. You got a bill, here's a bill, and I'm gonna give you $1 to pay for it, but the bill's actually gonna be 2 1/4.
well, I think the mischaracterization is just this. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. This ain't broke. And the thing is, the fact that you're looking to do this, talk about not getting a pay raise. If you go to the GIC, every employee, this is what happened in 14, when they made $8.8 million. They didn't get a pay raise. They said, oh, you know, our rates are gonna go down. Our rates didn't go down. Our rates went down for healthcare, but we lost $8 million out of our pockets, out of our earnings, in additional co-pays, in additional, and this is what happens when you go to the GIC. You go to the GIC, what happens? Diane, you know off the top of your head the tier 3 rate?
Stop. Who said we're going to the GIC?
I know you're talking about it.
No.
I know you're talking about
You
it.
can say you know. Who said, just because I'm listening, who said, that's what I said, who said we're going to the GIC? You were all ready to say that she's gonna retract that comment about the 8%. Who said we're going to the GIC?
Did you ask for a runoff count?
Did
How
I
much it would cost
ask for a
for the
runoff
city?
count? I did not ask for a runoff count.
Well, the city did ask Blue Cross, because I got an email. I got an email.
My point is, if I had my
Are you
way-
considering the GIC? Do you have a meeting to consider the GIC?
No, I do not.
You do not?
Right at this time,
Okay,
I do
good.
not.
Well,
My
we've got
point
that.
is, hold on, listen, guys. What we are paying $42 million in healthcare, and I can't give you a raise. So, you know, if the consensus of this group is, going forward, keep any raises and make sure we keep our health insurance, I'll agree to that. I'm waiting to hear that from Chip.
Okay.
Keep any raises, because if it keeps going up 5.7% for us, for Framingham, for Brockton, for wherever it's being done, it's a kick in the head.
You were-
I met with South Coast the other day. I didn't know this. He told me, and that's because I'm trying to figure out how this works. Paul's in the backyard, he cuts his arm. Instead of going to the emergency room at Charlton, I go to urgent care at South Coast Plaza. The average bill out of there is $130. What do you think it is at Charlton?
130,000.
No, it's not 130,000.
Well,
but
yeah,
it's
right.
it's 600, 550, 600. So, me, because I want to save money, from now on, if it's something, they have a whole list of stuff flu, colds, this and that, x-ray, I'm gonna go to urgent care. Because this is a team. This is a team, and I care about you guys, and plus I hate the emergency room at Charlton, so I'm probably being selfish, because you sit there forever. But you're not only gonna get, he said, similar service. If you're home and you wanna go on your computer, you can make an appointment within 5 minutes of when you'll be seen if you go to urgent care. So I'm saying, you know, I don't think we get that out as a group. I never heard that till I met with the guy who runs South Coast.
We had
okay.
we had a program that
Yeah.
we'd met with companies out of Nashville where we were actually going to go into business ourselves and start our own wellness center. We spent a year, maybe a year.
Yeah.
Well, let's get
Where
back to the
they
headline.
sent me to Nashville.
These are the things we have to do as a group. I'm thinking as a group.
We have been manipulating ways to save things. There were 2 things this week that we've just recently discovered that could save us as much as $8 million? $8 million more dollars.
800.
Almost
$800?
$1 million
I thought it was
just
$8
on
million.
one clinical program.
Well,
But-
if you combined all the programs.
Programs,
Yeah.
all right.
Oh, yeah.
8 million more,
Well, this is like
Those are the
deja
things-
vu all over again.
Well, it isn't for me, because I didn't know all
Well,
this.
like I said, you just reiterated this headline, we got no more money. Because of the healthcare, you can't give anybody a pay raise. But let me ask a question to Diane, because she knows. We're paying less for healthcare now than we did years ago, right?
Yes,
So
we do.
if you look at that in proportion to the increase in the budget, it's not the healthcare that is the issue. You know, to use that as a false narrative,
Well, no,
because
no, no.
the healthcare costs proportionately to our budget have shrunk.
No.
They have not increased. So, I take exception to the characterization that the problem is healthcare. I think that's the problem with the city. We don't look at the real issue. No oversight, there are other issues, there are other places to look. And I think if you look at something like healthcare, and you look at all the work we've done to keep costs down, and the fact that it's costing less in 2020 than it did in 2010, you're not, you're looking in the wrong place, with all due respect.
To be accurate though, I was called down here to talk about healthcare. I wasn't called down here to talk about other areas of the budget that are a problem. And that's why when I said the healthcare goes up, your raise pays for healthcare, I was contrasting that for this group. Do I know other areas of the budget need work? Absolutely. We're meeting every single day on it, and I can assure you, I don't even know if we met on healthcare this week, have we? No.
No.
Police, fire, education, road, everything. This afternoon, as crazy as it sounds, we're gonna talk about the library. Because we're looking for dollars everywhere. But to say that I said only healthcare, absolutely not. That's not what I'm talking about. We're looking at all areas of the budget, but I came down here and contrasted it that way because we're talking about healthcare increase and pay raises. We're in the middle of pay raises, we're in the middle of healthcare increases. Do I think that budget is to be blamed on healthcare? Absolutely not. We got a number of areas we're looking at, and we're gonna do the best we can. But I'm very new to this game, and I'm reading all the time trying to catch up. I'll bet you there's probably 10 people in this room know more than about healthcare than me. And to be fair, I talked to Chip about it offline, and he knows I do, because I'm picking his brain too. So, and we'll have another disagreement, but I don't disrespect him. This is an issue for all of us. And when I'm sitting there the other day, and the guy from the hospital's telling me these numbers, I'm going, I know that it's not like people are saying, gee, I can't wait to run to the emergency room, and not only do they go in, they get whacked. And I mean, and again, I would have gone to the emergency room till I knew that. And maybe that's because I didn't pay attention, and I'll take the blame. But let's be fair. I'm only contrasting the raises in healthcare because that's what this was about. Do I know there's other areas? Absolutely. So I never said the word only, please. I would not do that. That's totally inaccurate. It's not attributed exclusively to healthcare. Everything around goes up too, and that's what we're looking at.
I would like to just mention one other thing. And the reason that we're so aggressive about it was probably the fact that the city did backdoor us the last time they tried to get into the GIC. Everything was done secretly. Everything was done behind our backs. and then they slammed it on us one day, saying, hey, we're going in the GIC, we have no choice, that's it. We found out this week that there was some research being done, and it was like, damn, they're doing it to us again. After all that we've gone through, after all of the negotiations and we have an incredible relationship with the administration when it comes to working on healthcare.
Right.
We always try to do what's best for everyone. We always try and sit down together and get the best deal that we possibly can for both sides.
Absolutely.
And then we heard the GIC thing, and it just flicks a switch on us, and you can see Chip,
I know.
you can see me.
Let me
That's-
explain to you.
it's just
what we
ugly.
want. This year, there's not gonna be any change. And because of what I know happened the last time that this was wheeled out, that's not gonna happen. If anything happened, if we went to Blue Cross Supreme, which was $100 a month and no deductibles and no co-pays and everything was free, you would be at the table. You would be at the table. Because that's the way you do things. You are part of a team, whether you know it or not, and you should be at the table. And for someone to go backdoor on you, I'm not gonna do that. When and if anything ever changes, you guys will be part of it, from the get-go. And you will say, that's a load of hooey, or that might work, but you're gonna have a say. I promise you that. There's Chip's camera filming away. I promise
That's
you.
not Chip's camera.
Well, whatever it is, you're the only rich one here, the rest of us are poor. So that's how I look at it. There will be no actions taken until you guys are at the table. And like I said, nothing's happening this year. This would be a full year of planning and discussion. Are we gonna look? Absolutely. I would be a lousy mayor if I didn't look at ways to save money on asphalt, health insurance, books, paper. We were talking about going to two-sided copies on everything yesterday as a way to reduce costs for paper. I mean, that's what we're down to. So we're gonna look at everything, but you're never gonna be excluded. You'll always be at the table, and I will respect your opinion all the way through. And if we could ever, the gentleman from South Coast, was saying, believe it or not, exactly, Mr. Castro, right? What Mr. Castro was just saying. Again, you heard the GIC and the antennas went up. He was talking about, right now in their hospital, they already have companies that are like, that Charlton is their HMO, or South Coast is their HMO for them. They're already doing that, and they told me about 3 or 4 companies, and he said, we would love to talk to you guys about that going forward. I said, what don't you do there? What don't you do there? He goes, organ transplants. So I said, okay. Now, if you want to yell at me for asking that question, you might as well yell at me because I asked that too. And that was the same type of question as about the other company. I asked them that. But again, we couldn't do that because we'd exclude Primacare and St. Anne's. But if there was a way to do it in-house with anything that people need additional supports for, or additional services or specialists, we had a gap policy of some kind, and Diane's probably gonna swing at me in a minute to cover anything like that, I wouldn't be opposed to it. But that would be with you. With you. Not me rolling in here on a Wednesday and saying, here's your new plan, have a nice day. That won't happen. I'll guarantee you that. That would be from the get-go, you guys involved. And that was his proposal. He brought it up in terms of South Coast and the community, and you know how many employees they have, and their contributions, and he was talking about it in that regard, so. But
Just one quick interjection here. Do you think there's any way that Joe, somebody from the PEC, we should have some representatives in any discussion, even preliminary discussions, because we bring a different perspective, because some people, they look at just bottom line costs. When I look at the GIC, I look at the actual cost shifting, because you know, you can look at it, it's got a lower bottom line, but the impact on the employees is far more devastating.
Right.
Because if we're going to shift, if we're gonna save 2 million, but it's not really 2 million savings, it's 2 million out of the people who you just gave a pay raise to.
That's what I'm saying, so, but I will tell you, if it gets down to any point in that, someone floats me a proposal that's more money than we're paying now with less services, I'm not gonna put you at the table, I can dismiss that without you there. If it comes down to crunch time where it looks like, hey, these guys are legitimate, they might be, they've done it in Lowell, Lawrence, and Quincy, make sure you guys are at the table. I think that's the way you do things, and I don't, especially, you know, you guys are all invested in the city. You're all invested in the city. Okay? And that's how I would do, that's how it would be done. Right now, there are no changes. The other day, that was kind of sprung on me by South Coast. I actually brought it up, and they said, we're already doing that with companies. So I said, well, I mean, they weren't talking any wild savings or anything, but it was something to kick around, and with somebody representing your group at the table, we can kick it around with them. What's the end of the world? So is everybody peaceful?
We're always peaceful.
Relax,
We
Chippy.
try.
Relax, Chippy.
As long as we can agree that 5.7 is the number, and that's the issue, because we began this discussion about mischaracterizations of things, and we can't use that 8%, it's not what we always use, and we don't need that to fit anybody's narrative. I didn't use 4% to fit my narrative. I used the figure that Diane came up with, and as long as we can agree,
Right.
you know, we didn't work all this time to get these rebates to not factor them in.
All right, my point on anything right now, though, this is March. We are working on a budget. So if the deal came down and Diane found us $2 million, would you be just as angry if it went to 4.5? No, of course you would. Of course you would. You'd be thankful. So those numbers are all preliminary. We're not done with anything yet. We got things we're working on. We got a deficit we're trying to battle. I got every single union contract plus chiefs was stuck on me. Passed down, okay, I signed up. It's just work. But I think to characterize people as hard and fast on a number right now is just not accurate. It's just not accurate. We're doing the best we can. She probably has the accurate number because she lives in this world, so maybe she can help us. I'm hoping she can, and I hope she's accurate. But I wouldn't worry about what you're hearing on rumblings or things like that right now. Let's just work together and straighten this mess out. Any questions?
We're on the same page, right?
I think we are.
5.7, you can't think about going into the GIC.
Yeah. But
We have to make, because we have a contract.
Right, and what does the contract say? So I'm sure.
It's unless it's 7% or above, you can't even open the door to conversation with us about.
Okay, so someone can help me there. Is that 7% above on the cost or on the increase?
On an increase.
It's only on the
Yeah, but-
increase?
Well, yeah, but see, the thing is that, look, nobody's got a crystal ball. I mean,
That's what I just
you know,
said.
and the thing is, this is not like, you know, you're buying widgets or you're gonna try to
7.5.
cut your deal. The thing is that
7.5.
healthcare is always a guessing game. You got an actuarial projection for how much healthcare costs are gonna go up.
Right.
You got projections on everything. Diane, as you said, Diane lives in this world. The only thing we have to do, it's like betting on a horse. We got our track record. Their track record has been great for years. They're always fairly good.
Right.
And we're hoping that all these projections, and the best we can do is look at that number, but when we arrive at a number, we have to factor in everything, and she did. And if we can all agree on 5.7, and we're gonna hope, look, this year could be the year we ran over. I've got one of the years in here that 7 months in, we were in a deficit, but at the end of the year, we were in the positive. So this is kind of like a crapshoot, but we're doing the best we can, so that's it.
Yeah.
The raise equals the cost. yeah.
Right.
So I think we're good, as long as we can get to 5.7 and agree that that's the number.
Okay, Rain Man, relax.
Yeah, last year was a 1.5, the year before
You
it
got
was
that on camera, right?
4%, so, and, you know,
And even with the 5%, 5.7, we're still paying fines for 2016 and 17 worth millions that are incorporated in that once we pay them off, it's going to decrease our payments even more.
Well, right now, what's happening
Affordable
is
Care Act.
there are some ACA penalties that the city is incurring right now, because what happens is the ACA says, okay, the health insurance can't be more than like 9.5% of your salary. So whenever that does happen, and somebody goes to the state, or they get a subsidy or something, the city gets slapped with a penalty. So what we did last year is we created a qualified high deductible health plan, and the rates are low enough so that they will no longer
Take a
incur a
quick
penalty.
look. That's basically what it
The problem is,
is.
the penalty started in 15, we paid what, 15, 16? Did we?
We've paid like
Total
60,000.
60,000.
But-
It's a million.
No, that says
Well,
4 million.
they
That was
come
the
in,
initial.
The first one Nick gets is usually about $1
But he
million or
does a lot,
something.
he does a lot
And-
of work behind the scenes to
He-
get that fixed and gets
Yep.
it reduced down to
Yep.
quite a,
Yep.
a much
Yeah.
lower number.
He literally goes through that to get every penny, reduced as possible. But in a couple of years, as soon as we get up to, we started in, fiscal year 20.
Probably next
So,
year, we should be in the clear.
Yeah,
Because we introduced the
Yeah.
the high deductible plan.
Yep.
So eventually, that's going to give us
So
some
next year, the
relief.
rates are even going to go lower, so.
yeah. And we're gonna market the qualified high deductible plan this year, so hopefully we'll get more in there, and
I'll
then
take
that
that.
will help bring down these
It'll take me an
things.
hour and a half, and you'll be making fun of me.
I mean, the good news is, because you're self-funded and you've made all these changes, you're able to control your costs. So we just gotta continue to keep working at it.
Yeah, I think.
So there are a lot of little things
Are
like
we-
that.
If there's anything
Are
else,
we,
guys?
are we done? Any more questions for Mayor Coogan?
No, we've agreed to the
Upstairs.
5.7. Everyone's agreed to the 5.7.
Everyone's agreed.
Is this
that
the magic
going
number
forward,
for
they're at the
fiscal,
table.
for this fiscal year? So
No
we're
backdoor
covered.
tricks, we'll all be
we're
happy.
we're covered till next fiscal year, as far as anyone ever says anything about a change with GIC or anything. And we even know more that it's probably going to be reduced even worse, even
Right.
lower next year, because we're not going to have to assess so many fines or anything. So we're good. Thank you,
Well,
sir.
We'll be getting back to the table as the IAC, and we'll continue to look for ways to try to.
Yeah, as we
reduce
always
what-
do.
Like we always do.
As we always do.
We have to
Yeah,
start
let's give
early
people
on.
urgent care.
Well, we
We-
can work.
we-
We-
I did not know that. Did you know that?
Yeah, go online, I make my appointment.
There you go. How about you, Dave?
I go to the walk-in in Somerset, it's the same thing, you don't.
Is it the same thing?
It's less cost
Probably-
than the
probably, yeah,
emergency
the
room
rates
and all
on
Not
that.
that we're not trying.
That's the same.
We
I-
have, at
Thank
my
you, guys.
meeting-
And you're in and out of there, you're not, like you said, in there for an hour with everybody
Yeah.
breathing on you.
Look, at our meetings, we tell them about these costs. We tell them to go to, don't go to, we even had laughs, but, hey, listen, I gotta watch Judge, he called me Rain Man, when's Judge Walton around today? I can't miss that.
Thank you, guys. Are you guys staying? Does the other crew staying? You guys are
We
staying?
appreciate you,
Because
Oh, all right,
we
yeah.
appreciate
Open
you taking the
enrollment, yes.
time, Mr.
Oh, I
Mayor.
bet you do.
No. Any questions for Mary Sahadi?
Hey, Chip, are you filming this, right?
You saw
Bye, guys. Thank you.
assault on a
All right, we're comfortable, 5.7?
yeah.
All right, we can,
So just want to let everybody know that on the 8th of April, we're having our health benefits fair. We're also going to include the open enrollment. We're working with a Y. We're working with local agencies. We're working with a bunch of people, so it'll be a nice event. We'll be sending out literature. We were just waiting for this to get wrapped up so we can put out flyers and disseminate all the information. But Nick is looking to
It's on a
start the
Wednesday, I think.
open enrollment on when, Nick?
It's
you
on
wanna
a
go through-
Wednesday.
Can you give us a minute?
That's what
You want to go through the,
No, March 30th is the goal.
as you usually have.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah,
so it'll
so
be
it-
April.
It'll depend on getting all the literature done down to the print shop, so it may be a week later than that, but March 30th is the goal. And then it'll be the full month of April, close May 1st.
Like we normally do. But we'll be sending out lots of information to you on the benefits fair, health fair.
All right, any other questions for anybody? Are we comfortable with the 5.7? 5.7?
Mhm.
5.7?
Once, twice, yeah.
5.7? Okay, 5.7 will be agreed upon by the Public Employee Committee unanimously.
Can I, Joe, can I give you an update on our discussion with PBIRX on,
Yeah, I mean, I thought that those were some incredible
okay.
proposals.
Out of everything they recommended, I would recommend you take everything they suggested on Tuesday. However, with the Elect RX, we did have a meeting with Chris Collins. Remember Chris Collins came in here and we talked? And I did go back and ask him a second time about having specialty meds go through his office. And he rephrased the comment he had made about the FDA back then, which is that the FDA made it clear that, he said right here, very clear about which medications they did not want individuals to import across international borders. This includes insulin and specialty medications that are part of the REMS program, and the REMS is Risk Evaluation and Mitigation Strategy. It's a drug safety program, have increased risk to patients and require higher doctor monitoring. So I'm not too sure about going into that Elect RX right now. What I'd rather do for you guys is maybe wait and see who else is enrolled in it, see what's going on, and maybe see if the FDA does anything.
But didn't they represent at that meeting that they had used this place before? That's the impression I got when they started talking
PBIRX?
about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like, so if we can find out if anybody's got it,
Yeah.
because I thought there were federal.
Didn't they mention us, they mentioned somebody that had it?
Ask them to send us a client list of who currently has the program.
And they're based out of Michigan, they're not based out of Canada.
Right.
Well, these drugs that you'd be getting
I
from
know,
Elect
I know.
RX would be from Canada.
I know, they're based out of Michigan though, that's interesting,
Yeah.
it's different than Canarex.
No, Canarex
Yeah.
has an office in Michigan too, though.
Yeah, Canada, yeah, their headquarters is in Michigan too. They just do that
Probably
over
just
the border.
yeah.
Well, I like the fourth tier, that 1/4%, 1/4,
I think you should do the
Fourth tier.
MCS with the whole rebate thing, the whole thing. I think you should do that July 1st.
I would think that that would be a good idea too.
I just want to know where to.
I would want to know how much savings. I mean, that's big. That could be big because it could actually reduce your copay. If your copay is $10 and your drug was only $4, you're only going to pay $1.
What I could have them do is look at the utilization and see what would have applied if we had it in place today.
I liked it. I liked it. I didn't think that it would be too confusing to sell the product to everyone because it basically wouldn't be much more than anybody going in line and saying, okay, your copay is $10 or your copay is $1.
So I think what we need to do, we need to have the subcommittee meet, set up a meeting for the subcommittee to review the recommendations as we.
I would like to do that before enrollment so that we can, we might even be able to reduce a little more.
Well, I'm suggesting that the subcommittee meet to look at those recommendations made by
Well,
PBIRX.
that alternate Canadian thing, that would be a tremendous savings. The insulin's we got one of the highest percentages of diabetics in the state. And if we could start getting diabetic stuff from Canada, that would be huge.
I know.
Okay, the
Huge.
concern is like I just said, FDA
Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah, I
want
know.
insulin
No.
going.
When he
No,
said
I
that,
don't
I
think-
thought something that should be, apparently he said that.
I'll talk to you upstairs.
Well, we need
For
to
medically
go
sealed
back
Yeah.
stuff and
So I'll
time
have to
capsules
look.
with
Okay.
all kinds of other stuff. And
I'll have to look
I would think it would be
into it.
like
Yeah.
buying-
Yeah, we're good with
doesn't-
that. I'm comfortable with that.
I'd love to save you guys almost $1 million, I would.
So would we, but I mean, like you said, I'm kind of skeptical because the federal government, and even with that time-sensitive stuff, it's like, I don't know, but we'll see. But check into it, Diane,
Yeah,
thank you.
well,
Do you guys want to meet now, or do you want to set up another meeting, another date, Joe, for the,
I'm free. I don't
you
care.
have anywhere to go?
You want to set up another day?
Okay, well, it's up to you, I mean, I can
Let's-
stay now.
Can you stay
For what?
I've logged
to
off.
go over the recommendations that were recommended by PBIRX?
Well,
Yeah, remember we have a sub-
Well, we went over them yesterday.
We have a
I mean, the day before
We
yesterday.
have a subcommittee
Yeah.
to say yay or nay.
All right, let's.
Yeah, let's stay, I don't care.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Thank you, CJ, for taping.
Thank you, CJ, for videotaping.